Hi.
Hi.
So, if you could just explain your process when you get an assignment like Snow White and the Huntsman, which is a lot different than other interpretations of Snow White that we've seen.
The first thing that I start with is the screenplay, which is the starting point, which is what makes it different because it's a different take on the story. And a meeting with the director and what he's thinking for the story, and Rupert wanted it to have like a little bit of a darker edge and have it be a more kind of, kind of a different kind of Snow White, more of Snow White that's more powerful and more of a, a real kind of journey to womanhood rather than just a little girl princess. So that was kind of where we started, and then I was sort of given free rein to come up with ideas for the armies, which were the first part of the thing that we had to make. And then as I went into each character, like their costumes and the materials and sourcing and all that, and then you start making stuff, and before you know it, you're shooting and it's over.
Were there any challenges in making costumes for a Snow White who wasn't anything like the particular Snow Whites we've seen?
Well, I think that because the script was so strong and the actress was Kristen, that it would, for me, just her presence and the sort of inspiration from that didn't make it particularly difficult for me. I kind of like had an idea of how it could work within the parameters of the story, and it just didn't seem hard. It just seemed kind of like she was the perfect one to do it, and we could make it work with her.
Was there any particular time period you were trying to go with, or was this just fantasy world, kind of anything goes?
Well, it started, the basis with these kind of movies is always sort of the parameters of a time period, which was probably like 11th century into the 10th century, which was sort of medieval times, basically, to those of us who are not scholars. And so we sort of based it in with that sort of thing in mind. And then we took influences from all over and manipulated it, but sort of always with that sort of loosely, that sort of feeling behind it.
So I'm looking at Charlize's costumes, which are absolutely gorgeous, but also, you did a good job making them look actually scary. So what was kind of the thought process behind the scales and the things were?
Well, the idea was that she always had a touch of death about her. Even in her golden glowing days, there's elements of death, like in her wedding gown with the exoskeleton thing, and there's all different kind of death telegraphing in her costumes, and they take a journey from more golden to very dark at the end. But one thing that's really important to me about costumes, especially for a person like Charlize, is the silhouette. How the costume looks from far away can often depict good or evil, soft or hard, and I use that kind of sharper silhouette on her costumes to help convey that.
So how many looks do you have overall for her in the film?
There's about 12, 13 costumes for her that are all kind of gradual looks.
Is there one that's your favorite?
Not really. I kind of go back and forth. They were all fun to make, and they were all really, complicated costumes and materials and getting them all to work for us. So I don't particularly like one day. I might like one better than the other.
Excellent. And so for Snow White herself, is this all in battle gear pretty much the whole time?
No, Snow White starts as a captive in the castle in a long dress with an overdress, which is the same overdress she wears later in the story. But when she goes into the woods, it gets torn and becomes a sort of shorter tunic over leather leggings and boots. And then she has a couple other changes. Once she goes into armor, which is the armor of the people, which is kind of an eclectic suit of armor. And then, she becomes queen, and she has a moment at reluctant. Yeah, she has a reluctant moment as a queen, as she's been given the responsibility of what, what is rightfully hers through her bloodline.
Great, so I'm expecting to see a lot of transformations with these characters.
They all take their own little journeys within the movie, which humanizes them, I think.